So the time is 5:33 p.m. And I will call to order the meeting of the Healthy Neighborhoods Advisory Committee. So first, public appearances for non-agenda items. Seeing none, we'll close the public appearances.
Actually, right. Emily, did maybe
yeah.
Deanna could just quickly introduce herself?
Yes, thank you.
Deanna, do you mind just introducing yourself quickly?
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry. I was having trouble just getting that little microphone. So good evening, everyone. I am Deanna Schmidt, and I'm the new city planner. And very sorry to see Wade leaving us, but going forward, I'm here to help out and bridge us across to the new hire. So if there's any questions or comments or anything, please just reach out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I know we're in good hands. I've worked with her on Plan Commission, and yeah, we're in good hands. All right. So shall we move to the agenda review?
And actually, it looks like Emily. It looks like Jay's now on board, so we could go back and
oh, that's great.
So we have a quorum. So we could go back and approve the minutes if you want.
Yeah, sure. All right. In terms of the minutes, does anyone have any changes they would like to see or comments? Okay. If not, can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. All right, so now we'll jump back down to agenda number 5. Wade, do you want to take it away?
Sure. And again, if folks remember, you know, I'll be leaving the city, and at the last meeting, we kind of talked about just having a quick meeting today, or maybe not quick, but just kind of a meeting focused on essentially future directions for the H&I, you know, broadly speaking, and then for this committee more specifically. So I just put together kind of a pretty simple spreadsheet in terms of, you know, things that I'm kind of doing under the H&I umbrella, you know, kind of the pillars of the H&I, you know, thus far, and then try to identify, you know, again, those tasks, you know, kind of current status, some options for future directions, you know, some desired timelines on some of those options, and then just contact information. And I kind of see 4 things, you know, that's kind of under the direct purview right now of the committee. And certainly as the committee grows and the H&I grows, you know, hopefully new things will, you know, be on your plate as well. But as of now, I kind of look at 4 big things. And maybe just starting with some of the easy stuff. Well, I guess 5 things. The 5th one being, whoops. Can folks see my screen? I just lost. Okay, sorry. So yeah, you know, number 5 here, just a body, you know, to serve as the liaison to this committee. I talked with Deanna, you know, we've been talking since my announced departure, and you know, I think we'll get that job, or Deanna will get that job posting out, you know, sometime in the next couple of months. I think there's some thought about just making sure we get the right description out there to track the right person to this job. So assuming we get that out, you know, in the near future, you know, maybe in a couple of months, knock on wood, you know, there might be a replacement for me, and then that person would become the liaison to this committee. And certainly until that person is on, you know, Deanna can serve as a contact. You know, folks have things they need to reach out on. But I guess to that broader point, you know, unless something unexpected comes up in the next couple months, I wouldn't envision a committee meeting until that person is on, that new person is on board. And certainly there might be something that needs to get referred to this committee, you know, before that person is on, but that would probably be the only scenario where I would see the need for a meeting before that new person is on. So maybe I'll just stop there, and yeah, folks have questions on kind of that piece of it.
Yeah, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe ask Deanna what the process is for creating. I mean, Wade can talk about replacing him, but we all know we're not exactly going to replace him. So is there anything that this committee could do or any help that might be needed to get somebody in this role for the city? Is there any role for us in shaping the job announcement or in trying to get it out to the right places to get to replace Wade as carefully as we can?
Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. So right now, we are kind of working on tweaking some of the job description. Wade has been doing much more than what is in the current job description. So if you all, I think the first thing I would say, if you all have any thoughts or input about the position or about the role. Of course, I'm coming from this and completely new. I welcome your comments, your thoughts. You can send me an email, give me a call, or stop by anytime. And I also, once we kind of finalize this job description, I would be grateful if you all could use your own channels to get that job description out to someone that might fit really well. So right now we're kind of in this process of doing some evaluations with HR and the city administrator. And so I welcome your thoughts.
Thanks, Deanna. Any other questions or comments on kind of the liaison role of that staff person? Okay, and I guess kind of moving, again, I was trying to kind of take care of the low hanging fruit here. The second piece I want to talk about is the grant program. And again, I think in terms of timing, this is probably about as good a timing as there could be for someone to transition in and out. So we opened up our app cycle, we got our applications, you guys met to make recommendations. Council did approve those recommendations, those awards. I have been in touch with all the awardees, letting them know they received an award, and I always do like a orientation kickoff meeting with them, just a quick phone call. I've done that with all of them. And then normally, in terms of process, after that phone call, I don't really have much contact with the awardees until like mid-project. We usually talk about a mid-project check-in like in the fall. And that's usually just a quick email or a phone call saying, hey, how are things going? And usually it's, A-okay. And then it's, I'll talk to you at the end of the project when we talk reporting. So again, I think, and a lot of our folks this year are repeat awardees, so they know the drill, they're experienced, with their projects. So I don't really envision any workload there, until that new person comes on. And then I think, come April or come fall, I would encourage that, leave notes for that person to kind of reach out to the awardees and just, check in with them in terms of a mid-project check-in. And then I told all the awardees that I will send them an email probably next week sometime before I leave with as much information that I know on my, successor, and then would leave Deanna as a, emergency contact for those awardees as well. So again, I think we're in pretty good shape there. But yeah, I could certainly take any questions or comments the committee might have.
I have a question. Can I just want to?
Yes, please.
So does anyone, do the agencies ever contact you in the meantime, or generally no contact?
I'm sorry, Rod, do the awardees contact me? Is that what you said?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, just did the awardees.
Yeah, yep. Not really. There might be an issue. So like one example would be if they change their budget line items from what we saw in the application, more than 10% of the award, they have to check in with me just to kind of, just so I can kind of confirm with them. So there might be an occasional email about, budget question or a eligible cost question, but yeah, really it's minimal contact with them, until that mid-project check-in. And again, this year, I think we've got, 8 awardees, I think 6 of which have been with us for a few years. So again, I think most folks know the drill, and yeah, there's usually not much contact till that check-in. So.
Julia?
Yes, the other question that I want to ask is that we usually do a presentation of the awardees, what they are doing with the project in one of the COW meetings. So we usually, last year, I think it was at the end of the summer or beginning of fall. So who is going to be coordinating that? We are planning to do something like that?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I'll go back and look at when we normally do that. But yeah, you're right. We do kind of do an HNI annual report to the council, and I think that would be a good thing to continue doing. So I'll kind of check in with Deanna on that, and we can talk that through a little bit. But yeah, I think that would be a thing we would want to continue. So.
And then I had a question too. All of the grantees get paid after the fact, right?
Yep, it's all reimbursement. And that's where, that's really where the workload for this program is the, opening the cycle and then the reporting.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a fair amount of stuff. I mean, it's all just procedural, but it's a little bit of a workload, and I'll do my best to have that successor, ready to roll with that stuff. And a lot of it's just kind of our standard finance process. So once I get the hang of that stuff, it'll be, it shouldn't be an issue. So.
Okay, great. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I really appreciate people raising the reporting to the council, because I think that's important to keep interest and support for the program going. I guess I'm wondering, in past years, Wade, if there was work on your end to help shape those presentations at all, or to help the awardees kind of know how best to present their successes to the council.
Yeah, good question. I mean, I guess I was, every year when I do the kickoff phone call with the awardees, I mentioned, hey, we might knock on your door to ask you to come and, speak to your presentation or speak to your project. And they're always very interested in doing that, because at some level they can promote their org as well. But yeah, I'm usually very intentional about who I ask, and I'm learning the formats that work best. I think I'm trying to remember, I think we've had some folks come in person. I think we've done some videos. But yeah, I usually try to give them guidance on, what we're looking for. And just, with humans being humans, people will speak, to different, we'll just, present different information. But yeah, I really kind of let them just, do their own thing with some basic guidelines. And then, yeah, just try to be intentional about, who we pick, projects that will really, or speakers that will really resonate with council. So yeah, there's some strategy or tactics there, I guess, when we get to that point. So
I guess I wondered if that might also be a role for the committee, is to hear from those projects here first, and to maybe help them to shape a little bit what it is that council and the citizens of Fitchburg might be interested in hearing.
Yeah, great thought. And one thing I do try to be conscious of with these folks is just being conscious of their time. We don't give them a ton of money. So I kind of try to frame it as like a double whammy. So, the presentation of the council and certainly the committee members can, come to that meeting or listen in on that meeting. But yeah, I could even see a scenario where, maybe we get a report from certain awardees at the committee level, and then there's other folks that, kind of do a council presentation. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to handle that. But yeah, I think to the broader point is how to, making sure that decision makers are aware of the positive impacts that these projects are having. So yeah.
All right.
I have two questions and a comment. My first comment is thank you so much. Well, first of all, Wade, for all of your work. But second of all, Deanna, who left, for taking up a lot of the, being the emergency contact or helping with the transition. I have two questions. One is in the last meeting that we had of this committee, we had a couple of questions about some of the particular organizations. Are the answer, and I did not find any sort of like email or anything with answers to that, although I'm sure that you did, follow up. But is it documented somewhere? Just if I have.
Yep, and I'll go back and look at the minutes. Yep, I did address all those questions, and I can certainly follow up with an email or. But yeah, I think there was some Dear Diary requests. Yep, so I'll do that later this week. You bet.
Awesome. And then my second question then is about reimbursement. You mentioned that there's reporting. Has it in the past ever happened that based on reporting, maybe someone didn't meet metrics that were previously agreed upon and therefore they didn't get the money? Has that ever happened?
Usually I think we're pretty understanding of, let's just say, maybe deviated outcomes from the application, just things that arise. And so I think as long as there's, goodwill effort or good faith effort, and they're showing progress, generally speaking, we award for that. Where we do not award for is if we can't get documentation on expenses. If we can't match receipts back to reimbursable costs. We had a couple of situations where I think we ended up giving a group pretty much like half an award just because I couldn't, track their documentation, and gave them opportunities to follow up. But at the end of the day, we just said, hey, this is what we can do, and they were okay with that. So I think that's more of a concern than not meeting specific outcomes. If they say they're going to affect 150 people and they only affect 130, I think we're, at the end of the day, it's an estimate, and I think we as a city feel are generally okay with that kind of scenario. So
Absolutely. Thank you.
Wade, I had a request. You had mentioned that there's like a handful of grantees that you think kind of like bubble up to the top in terms of giving really good presentations. I was wondering if you could just share that list with your successor or with Deanna.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. Yeah, and I'll put together, with all my projects, I'll put together kind of a cheat sheet just for the next person to kind of, things to help them, hit the ground running. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Any other grant program questions or comments? All right. Now getting into some of the more in limbo stuff, I guess is maybe a good way to put it. Let me just see where I want to go here. So I think I'm going to start with the facilities, and then we'll talk about Navigator Program last. So Teen Center, we're in really early stages of that. To be honest, I haven't had a super active role in that. I've kind of been just kind of the staff contact for a consultant that knows what she's doing, has been through this before. We've got a very engaged Alder Maldonado, who's, taking an active role. So I'm paying invoices, I'm helping out where I can with strategy and, those sorts of things, but taking a pretty passive role. Now, so phase one is kind of like in community engagement. That's where we're at now. That'll wrap up in, I guess, June, July this year. And then I think phase two is where a planning head a city planning head would take a city planning person, I should say, like a literal head, would take a more active role in kind of a phase two design. So just like with the hub project, the phase two was kind of like, okay, here's the location, here's the concept, here's a blueprint, and then, running that up the flagpole. So I could see my successor again being pretty active in that. Again, I think the timing's pretty good with transitioning into a phase 2. My goal before I leave is to have to start that phase 2, we would put out an RFP, a request for proposals, to try to find basically like planning and design consultants to help us figure out where this facility could go and what it could look like. So my goal is to get a draft RFP ready for that before I go. And I'll again check in with other, city staff on that. Probably check in with Alder Maldonado. So that should be ready to roll. Then it's just a decision on, when that should go out, making sure there's city funding to pay for that consultant. But then, the request would go out, proposals would come in, staff would review proposals, interview consultants, make a decision, or make a recommendation, and then that recommendation would be kind of put together in a draft contract, and then that draft contract would go up the ladder for approval. And once approved, that consultant could begin that phase 2 work. So all that stuff about RFP release and consultant selection, that would all be under this body would be part of that. So you would be, part of the process as that RFP gets posted, and then, you get proposals coming back from that. So again, I'll kind of need to figure out maybe what a best case scenario is for release of that RFP. And then, and maybe before I leave, I'll give you guys an update on that. And then I would just kind of give you a heads up that I think in the next few months, you guys would be pretty heavily engaged with kind of that process. So you as well as Parks Commission at this point, because technically it's both the hub and the teen center are under the kind of the Parks Department body, so to speak. And then this body's obviously, relevant as well. But so yeah, that's kind of the process I see on the teen center. So.
Does anyone have any questions? I had one. Wait, can you remind me if the consultant for like the next phase, like after the community engagement, do we have like money that's already like set aside for that?
Yeah, I can't quite keep track, so not heavily involved, but I believe we do have approved somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40,000.
Okay.
For that phase 2, and I can confirm that too before I go. But yeah, I think we're set up for that.
And is that like what the cost would likely be for this, or is it kind of like we're 75 or 50% there?
Yeah, I mean, for the hub, for an example, I mean, this was 3-4 years ago already, but yeah, for $30,000, we got a really nice product.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, I would say between 30 and 40 is for a concept, which is what we're talking about. Basically, location, maybe 2 or 3 location options, and then kind of a basic floor plan of the facility, and then some basic renderings, and again, and then engagement as well. So yeah, I think for 30 to 40, you could get a real nice product for that. Yeah.
That's great. Julia?
Yes. So my question is, Wade, is Annette planning to come to talk to the council when she had the final, survey done and, the phase 1 is complete?
Yeah. So if you remember, so Joe was at our last H&I committee meeting to kind of give us an update on the teen center. And then I gave a quick update to Park Commission a couple months back. And then I did just connect with Annette, and she's going to be at Park Commission this week to just kind of introduce herself, and then kind of setting the stage for June, at which she will present that, or maybe it's June or July, one of those months. She'll have that final deliverable ready for Parks Commission. And then it probably makes sense for her to talk to this body too. So maybe this body does need to meet, in the next couple months, if they want to be part of that. And then, I think she's, as of now, I believe the July committee of the whole she will be presenting there as well. So yep, she's certainly going to get in front of, you know, those bodies in the next couple months.
Great. Yeah, I would, for one, be very interested in her coming to this committee.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, and again, I'll, you know, our options are somewhat limited given, you know, limited staff capacity, and then also just the scope of the contract with the net, meaning we have a certain amount of. So I think one thought I had is just an idea. We might frame it as like at the June Park Commission, but then invite all you guys, you know, for that item. So almost like a joint meeting, but we'd kind of probably have to follow the Parks Commission schedule just because they're, no offense against you guys, but they're a little bit more established with some of their processes. So so that might be a good way to, you know, kind of handle getting you guys, you know, engaged on that too. So yep.
I like that idea. All right. Any other questions, comments? All right.
And then moving on to the hub. So again, I think we're at probably as good a breaking point as we could be at with this project, with the staff transition. So the goal all along was, or the plan all along was to have kind of me be the project lead up until the point of construction. And then like per our city guidelines, we need to have a public works person as the lead for construction activities. So we're literally at that point, you know, come May 10th, next week, we will get direction on the final design for phase one. And at that point, we'll know what we're designing for. So our consultants can then prepare what's called construction documents. And those take months to, you know, all the detailed building documents, those take months to prepare. And then we would put those out to bid. And then we'd hopefully get bids, you know, and then we again, figure out a contractor that we want to work with. But at that point of when those construction documents start to be created, that's where Tracy Foss, our utilities engineer, so she's on here as a contact. That's where she would kind of take over as lead. And Tracy's been part of the hub team, you know, since day one. So she knows all about it. So again, I think we're at a pretty good transition point. Certainly, in my opinion, you still need a planning head, a planning person involved. You know, just so much stuff comes up. You know, just the amount of time you invest on just little nuances of design or engagement. I mean, it's work. So, you know, talking with Deanna, you know, we're trying to figure out how that could look. You know, bridging that gap till my replacement comes on. And again, we've got Scott Endel, our parks director. You know, he's obviously been engaged on this thing since day one. But yeah, certainly I think, you know, the city would really benefit from a planning presence, you know, throughout the construction process as well. And that's, again, I think we're just trying to figure out what that could look like in the next couple of months, as well as, you know, when my replacement is on. So.
Julia?
Yeah, so my comment to you is next week on May 10th, the council will vote for the final design and the budget for this project. And we need 6 votes. And we need, we need your support, okay? We need you to show up, you know, to the meeting, 7:30, and speak up. Or send an email to the council, but I will recommend you to show up and speak. And tell the council why it's important to build this park in this part of the city. We really need every one of you to show up to the meeting. We need your support because, to be honest, I don't know if there are 6 votes there, okay? But you know, if you need any additional information, send me an email, call me. We can discuss, but I will appreciate that the Healthy Neighborhood Committee show up next week.
Can you give us the date on that again?
It's a common council meeting. It starts at 7:30. And I don't know yet which is the order of the agenda. But also there's gonna be a Zoom link. If you want to speak up via Zoom, send me an email and I can send you the link. I have the link. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Elizabeth.
Julia, just really quick question. Did Larry Love ever send a letter?
I am meeting with him in person on Friday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So thank you for checking.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I just wanted to give Julia and Alder Allen, whom I don't know, an opportunity to perhaps share anything that they feel like we, the council may want to hear from the citizens on this or from this committee on this particularly, or any particular points that they feel we need to address.
Jay or Julia, do you want to respond?
I think Jay has his hands up, and then after Jay, I will speak.
Okay.
Well, before I get too carried away here, Wade, I was trying to find some information and I was not able to. How exactly did the city acquire the piece of ground where the hub is going?
Yeah, so that was dedication from Plesco for, I believe, the High Line.
The High Line, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So I think the things that the council needs to hear from this committee, not just this committee, I think the council needs to hear from a lot of people that this particular neighborhood is sorely lacking in useful recreational space. I think we need to talk about the statistics about how many kids there are in this neighborhood. I used to live on Post Road, and so you know, I can speak directly to the fact that there's a lot of kids in this area who just simply, there's nothing going on for them at all. And I was previously on the council in a earlier incarnation back in the 90s when we started talking about teen centers and recreational spaces and skateboard parks. And so it's been, I mean, this discussion isn't new. This has been out there for at least 2 decades. And nothing has happened. And so this is the closest that we've ever been to actually making something happen. And I mean, I don't think it needs a lot. I just think it needs a little push. Looking at the council as it sits right now, I think there are 4 or 5 pretty solid votes for it. I think there are 1 or 2 others who might come along, but I also think there's 1 or 2. I think there's 1 who's definitely going to oppose it. And I think there's maybe 1 who is a random number generator and we just don't know. And that's someone whose opinion can change multiple times in a meeting. So, you know, I just think people need to hear. If you know people who live in the neighborhood, hearing voices from the neighborhood will probably mean more than anything. So I think if we can reach out and grab some people who live there, especially some kids. You know, the council does listen to kids sometimes, and I think having people who will actually use the facilities would be a good thing to have happen also. But I mean, I think it's been a clearly demonstrated need for a long time. It's just a question of getting the ball rolling, getting the cart moving down the hill. And, you know, I was the mayor of the city when we finally got the library moved. And the library took almost 15 years from the time that it was first conceptualized to actually having it happen. We went through 5 different mayors from the time the library was first envisioned to the time that it actually got built. And now here we are with this project. And it just seems like, and I don't really understand the reluctance. There's always been, if you've listened to any of the council meetings about this, you'll hear comments about, well, we need some more private fundraising. And I don't understand that thinking. We don't ask for private fundraising when we build police stations, fire stations, water towers, wells. We got some private donations when we built the community center back in 1988. There were some more private contributions when we built the addition on to the senior center, but it was still a $1.4 million borrowing that we did that went along with the $200,000 or $300,000 they raised privately. So, I mean, I don't understand why people don't view these kinds of things as basic city infrastructure, but they are, and they need to be treated that way. And I think having voices from the neighborhood and, you know, just your voices are enough. You've been duly appointed members of this committee, and your voice should carry some weight among the decision makers. So I do hope all of you are able to make it to the meeting and to speak in favor of this and to snag as many people as you can. I mean, when the first official council vote on the library happened, we had 60 people in that council chambers there to speak in favor of it. And that makes a difference. You fill that room with people, and it's hard for those people, even if they're going to be some fiscal conservative who says, well, we don't need to spend money on anything. When they're looking at 60 tax-paying voters who live in the city, it's hard for them to say no to that. So I guess that's all I would have to say about it. Please come in and make your opinions known.
Ari, I am looking at your text, and they say that it's a late meeting for kids. You know what else? One idea that I can give you is you can maybe do a video with the kids, you know what I mean? And then send the video, and we can present the video that night. And people can do that. If you have kids, video the kids and ask the kid why it's so important. We can use those videos for a presentation. That one could be a great idea. And also, you are in Leopold School. Maybe you can also talk to some teachers that they live in the area, or some parents, and and videotape them. It doesn't matter that I speak Spanish, English. It happened the first time in 2020 when we put this project on the table. There were like 50 people show up, and some people, they submitted video. So that one is another idea that you can submit for kids. I know, because it's a late meeting for them. Yes.
Jay? Jay, did you have something else to say? Or?
I did not at the moment.
Oh, okay.
I guess I should undo that, shouldn't I? There, fixed.
All right. Does anyone else have questions, comments? No? Okay.
So last piece of the puzzle here, in terms of this, I guess current workload is the Navigator program. And I think I've, publicly expressed my frustration isn't the right word, but just, I take full responsibility, just, lack of, and success isn't the right word either. Just, the program hasn't gone to where I thought it could go, or where I hoped it could go. And that's for a lot of reasons, mainly being just staff capacity and staff expertise. But, I think there's really three options. And if folks remember, we have money for 2 navigators. We lost one a while back. I posted twice for it. I'm not getting any applicants. And again, I think that's for a lot of reasons, but I think one of the reasons is salary. And I've tried to make inroads here to get that salary increased. I've not had success. But I think that is, if the city really wants to commit and support to that program, I think paying folks a living wage is the first step. But I kind of see 3 options. I see continuing the program as is, And probably, just trying to kind of limp it along, for lack of a better term, until that new hire is on board. And again, I will point out that this type of work, my position, and I enjoy my position, but I do a lot of different things. And this certainly is a niche task that takes a certain skill set to, I think, really, see through and expand. And hopefully we get a person that has that. And I want to be clear, I don't think I have the skill set. I've been able to start the program, but I think it needs a different skill set to really grow it. So that's option one. Option two is to kind of just put the program on pause, until we get that new person on board. And I've talked with Carmen, our existing navigator, about all these scenarios, and she is fully prepared for whatever might come her way. And then the third option is just discontinuing it. Maybe the new person isn't interested in doing it; they don't have the skill set, or we say we've tried it for a couple of years and it's just it's a tough go and it needs more than we can currently give it. So I don't think we need. I guess I'm just looking for your thoughts on this. Certainly Deanna and I have discussed it a little bit, but just, maybe some thoughts on, what a preferred approach for the committee would be. And then, certainly we'll, at a staff level, we'll do our best to try to, see that through. And that's where I just want to transition maybe quickly into the second piece here. And again, I've talked about this, with you guys, but I think what the H&I really is it's, starting the discussion of a community development department within the city. So, in cities, in more mature cities with more issues, more problems, you've got kind of the three legs of city growth. You got your economic development, you got your planning and zoning, and then you've got your community development, which is some of the softer stuff. And I think really that's what the H&I is. And I think for the city to really, see the H&I through to where it could go, there needs to be a discussion about capacity, and more specifically capacity in a format that looks probably similar to this. So yeah, I think I'll probably just stop there, but yeah, I certainly can take any questions on the Navigator program or kind of this idea of a new staff capacity in the future as well. So
Ryan?
Yeah, I think, just to comment on the navigator position, I think it has a lot to do with, the salary for the positions as to, trying to get someone hired for that second position. Is there a possibility, I don't know Carmen's situation or anything, but is there they're both at 20 hours, right? Is that it?
So we basically get about 20, I think every year we get a little bit more, but I think right now we get 21 grand from the county spread over a year. And that equates to, we pay them like $13.50.
Okay.
And then between the two of them, that would be about 15 hours a week.
Okay.
But every year we've ran the program, even when we've had two navigators, I've always given money back.
Okay.
Meaning it's just, yeah. So,
Okay.
So, to me, it's almost like we need to create, I wouldn't even mind if we had one navigator and we paid them more money,
Right.
But again, I'm running into, there's city issues to raise those wages, which again, they're all manageable, but there just needs to be a commitment from staff or this committee to say, hey, we want to, in next year's budget, we want to propose to the council that they pay the navigators more.
Okay.
Or they raise the hourly wage, and that's one piece. I think the second piece is the county, is the city willing to partner? So, do we take 10 grand of our H&I pool, and that's the city match to that county 20, and now we've got 30,000, and now we can pay them even more. And just so you folks know, so I forget the name of the group, but there's like a regional consortium of navigators. And then there's also this term community health workers, which is like a navigator focused on public health stuff. So I just did see a job announcement for a community health worker / navigator, and I think it's like 19, 20 bucks an hour. You know, a living wage. And again, these are folks that maybe aren't, they don't have master's degrees or whatever, that, you know, they're just interested citizens, engaged citizens, and, you know, and other folks are finding ways to pay them accordingly. So
that was going to be my comment or my question is whether or not we can combine the two positions and raise the salary rather than having two part-time.
Yeah.
So you answered my question, so I appreciate that. But I was going to comment on that. Yeah, and then Allied Drive neighborhood. I know the Allied Wellness Center got a grant for community health workers, which is similar to the navigator position. But yeah, they're paying $20 an hour. So you know, yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah, and then just one other quick thought. You know, what I liked about the two navigator scenario, and this was when it was brand new, is they could kind of learn from each other, and they were coming in raw. And now, but yeah, now that someone has, you know, Carmen has the skill set, she has the experience. But I just think if you go to one, you know, you got to be careful that you either get someone that has experience in this kind of stuff or there's a mentorship aspect at some level. Because it is, you know, there is a lot of looseness to the position, you know, it's not a lot of structure. So it needs to have someone that knows what they're doing and is, you know, motivated to do stuff. So yeah.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, so I think a lot of maybe what I was going to say, Ryan kind of already covered there as far as a living wage and, you know, could we combine this in some way? What partnerships could we create? I guess just a couple comments. Is there any way to partner with our academic institutions in town around this? And particularly with UW, with its Prevention Research Center that's focused on health and health equity for low-income women and children. That could potentially represent a partnership source of perhaps trainees, if someone was up for having a trainee model for this. Also maybe think about granting opportunities that we might look at. And then lastly, I think I just have a really maybe keen interest in learning more about what the goals for this Navigator program were, how those maybe have changed over time. I'd love to hear from Carmen about what her experience has been, what the successes and challenges are, just as we start to rethink this a little bit. I think it would be really nice to hear from her particularly.
Yeah, and actually, I think we had planned to have her be here tonight, but she couldn't make. She was at the last meeting. We didn't get to her, unfortunately. We went long, but yeah, no, that's great points. And maybe before I leave, I'll try to figure out a way to kind of have her connect with the committee, maybe in the near future. But yeah, and to your broader point, Elizabeth, you know, I think that's where, you know, we had some goals written down and, you know, had some structure to it. And, you know, I think it's just, again, it's just a matter of, this is, this type of work, in my opinion, is in a completely new direction than the city has, you know, we're not talking land use, we're not talking grant program, we're talking like on the boots, community engagement. And again, I just think to me, for the Navigator program to do what it should do, it needs a supervisor that maybe half their job is the Navigator program and they're, you know, trained in community engagement. So, so I guess just to be quite frank, you know, I don't really see a growth of the program if it kind of stays where it is with a replacement, unless that replacement, you know, and this isn't going to happen, you know, but that oversight of this program needs to be a big part of someone's job. And you know, it just currently isn't. And without some staff changes, additions, I don't see it. I don't see it happening.
Julia?
Yeah, so what I want to mention is the role of the navigator in our neighborhood is very important. talking to Mayor Sacha about the town of Madison, what they are doing. She has Navigator in the town of Madison to collect information, to determine what are the needs of the people, you know, before the annexation. And I was thinking that maybe, you know, our Navigator should have a role like that, especially in the South Bay neighborhood. You know, and it's sad that we cannot retain the Navigator, or it's hard to find the replacement. I know that Carmen is doing a great job. You know, but she's very part-time. She really loves what she does. Maybe in order for her to be more engaged, while, you know, Wade is out and we find the final replacement, maybe we should invite her to our meetings so she can do like a 10 minutes presentation of what she's doing, you know, as a Navigator. So she knows that we care, and we consider her job as an important job, you know. So my other comment is that the city is going to engage in an organizational study at the end of the year. We allocated some ARPA funds to do a study to determine the organizational study for the city, and maybe that one is going to be the time where we can discuss if the city needs to have like a community development department. I think that one will be the time, or maybe talking to the consultant to determine how we can incorporate this concept. You know, the city has another committee called CEDA, a Community and Economic Development Authority. But that committee they focus most on business retention, attraction, and business relationship. You know, even though the word community is there, but, you know, I think I agree with Wade, as the city is growing, and you know, this neighborhood, they're not going to go away. On the contrary, we are going to have another one to manage. We need to have someone, you know, kind of like champion all of these programs that we are doing, you know. So that one is my comment.
I had two thoughts about it. The first one was, do we have any like metrics or like data points that we could share with the council overall to kind of like basically make the case for this is why they're important, this is what they've already done to help. If we can expand this, we can do so much more. So yeah, that was the first one.
So I meant to unmute and I stopped my screen share instead. So let me just get that back up here. Yeah, you know, we've got basic data, you know, like unduplicated number of residents connected with, you know, events attended. But, you know, it's, again, just thinking about, you know, what has impact with decision makers. And to be honest, Emily, again, this just gets back to my skill set and capacity. I just don't feel like I can yet make the argument with data to justify like a budget ask. You know, if I were to stay here, and that would probably be a priority of mine in the next 6 months, is to figure out how we take that next step with the program and figuring out those metrics. But yeah, you know, and I want, you know, we need accountability, you know, if for this program. And again, we have some basic stuff, but again, just I don't yet have the data to make that case. You know, one example, I wanted to see this program or the Navigators start doing programming, like organizing programming in the neighborhoods, you know, summer programming. And they've been like in a support role with that, you know, with City of Madison takes the lead on some of that stuff. But that's where I feel like there needs to be a person that's working with them 20 hours a week, 25 hours a week, mentoring them on how to do that stuff. Because as an example, we had a former position, an outreach librarian. Her job was, she was in the library, but her job was to bring the library to the neighborhood, so to speak. And she got paid whatever, a good living, she was a master's degree. And that was a lot of work for her to do programming. So, I think we have this expectation like, oh, this stuff is just, anyone can do it. And, we can pay someone $15 an hour. No, this is real work, and we gotta train these folks. We gotta support them, and then stuff will grow, and then we'll have those metrics. So again, it just gets back to like, capacity and resources to really grow this thing. So in my opinion, so.
Yeah. And then in terms of like departments, and this is just to throw some ideas out there, but the city recently hired a social worker, right? And so I was wondering, like, would that make sense, like for a fit, or like, doesn't the police department, they have like, I think it's like community liaisons? Is
Yeah.
that what they're called?
Yeah, so I think the senior center and the PD combined to like do a joint social worker position.
Yeah.
One thing I want to be real conscious of is not, for lack of a better term, unloading my work onto them. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, to your broader point, no, I think there's some real opportunity for collaboration and interdepartmental mixing at a little bit of a better level than maybe historically we've done here.
Yeah.
But yeah, again,
it feels like there's some alignments and like, some good connection.
And again, and just so folks know, so I had the Navigator idea in my head for years, and then the county kind of learned what we're doing with the H&I, and then just kind of came to us and said, hey, we got money for Navigator. So it was kind of this perfect storm of, preparation, meeting opportunity, or whatever you want to call it. But in my head, I never wanted to run the program because I knew it wasn't in my wheelhouse. But again, just to keep the program going, it became mine, and I'm happy to be there. But again, I just feel like it needs to probably live somewhere else for it to really, again, for it to be, what it could be. So. And
do you think that should be like, should it stay within the planning department, or like, if you could,
Well, again, I will speak more freely now that I'm leaving, but it should, number two, this should happen. What you're seeing on the screen, that's where it should go.
Yeah.
I mean, it can certainly stay in planning. My successor might be better at it than I am, and it grows. But, I think it is getting out of planning. It's getting more into the softer community development stuff. And again, I think as the city grows and expands its service scope, we can't keep putting square pegs in round staff holes. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, I was gonna maybe say a little bit, Emily, about what you were saying. It seems to me that there is an alignment there with other aspects of the city services that need community engagement. And so thinking about how those places meet their need for community engagement and how potentially somebody could assist with that, and how we might do that together. I think the other thing I'm a little worried about is losing Carmen. It's my understanding she's been in this role for quite a while. She's incredibly effective, and it sounds like we're not compensating her appropriately. And so I guess I wondered if there was anything that we could do urgently to retain her involvement until we figure out, and how she might be involved in that, till we figure out what we want to do here. It seems like a real loss.
Yep, but I did it again. Hit the wrong button. But yeah, I think to that point, Carmen, and I've talked with her about this many times, she's not doing it for the money. She's just she's a volunteer type person and really enjoys just connecting with people. So she'd probably do this for $12 an hour. Certainly if we could reward her, she would not turn it down, but she's in this not for money. She's in this to build community. And we're lucky because other people might be more interested in money. But yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to support her at a higher level.
Barry? Did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah. Back when our economic development department was formed, I had a lot of concerns about this because if you look at almost any other city in Wisconsin or anywhere else that has an economic development department, we don't have this kind of division like we have in Fitchburg. And mainly the reason that it was done this way was because of some political issues where some people didn't get along with other people, and so we put them in separate departments. And that's why it is the way it is now. But the bottom line is that planning and economic development and community development and the other things that we're talking about all go hand in hand. They're not just these isolated little functions that the city does that can be done independently. They all need to work together. And that's something that's been an ongoing issue that doesn't happen in our fair city. So you have people putting enormous effort in. I mean, between the senior center, the recreation department, the stuff that Wade's been working on, the library, and even the economic development department to a certain degree, all of these departments have functionality that involves reaching out to different people in the community. And in order to connect those people and in order to find ways for everybody to work together to figure out solutions to some of these problems, people have to be aware of the problems and be aware of the potential solutions. But because we have so many strings that are being pulled in so many different ways, the marionette looks like it's a clown show. So I have always supported the idea of having a community development department that would wrap many of these functions into it and get some coordination going on so that we can actually make some of this stuff happen. I get astounded by things that I hear council people say sometimes. We just had a discussion last week where one of our council people wanted to reward a developer because they weren't asking for TID in this very neighborhood. And the thing is that the TID law was developed exactly for this kind of neighborhood. The TID law was developed for redeveloping crumbling neighborhoods, not for Greenfield. It was adapted to Greenfield at a later time. But the notion that we freely give away money through in TID districts for people who are doing Greenfield developments, and we are just so reluctant to do it in a neighborhood like these neighborhoods that this committee deals with, is just astounding to me. Because if you're really going to talk about bringing quality affordable housing, if you're going to talk about bringing quality recreational facilities to neighborhoods, the easiest way to do it is to have a developer who's willing to invest and do it through TID. But there's just some mental roadblock in people's heads to making this happen, which is, especially in a small city like Fitchburg. You know, Madison has struggled with it as well, but you go to other places in the country and they do this kind of thing all the time. So I think we need to get some coordination between these different departments and between these different functionalities that we're trying to do, so that we can be coordinated about it and make it at least appear like we're doing something that makes sense.
Does anyone else have questions, comments? Yep, Ari.
So just to clarify, Wade, are you recommending a new department? Like it says potential future city community development department. And I asked this question as clarification because I'm wondering if having another committee, or maybe a department is different from committee. Please help me understand, but having another committee is really in the best interest of the city and just looking for clarification. Thank you.
Another question, and again, this is just, these are just thoughts from an outgoing city employee based on my 10 years of work here, and more specifically, the focus of my past like 4 or 5 years of work here, and just seeing what other cities do once they reach a certain point with some of these broader issues with their residents. So when I say department, that's like staff, you know, and then usually departments are connected to committees. Again, if I were to remain here, and as this conversation, and assuming this conversation would continue to evolve, what I would probably throw out for consideration is the HNI. If a CD department is desired by city decision makers, the HNI is essentially renamed the Community Development Committee. Because you're really, that's the work you're doing. You're doing community development work. You just have a different name. And then I think your focus becomes, you're still interested in the core neighborhoods, and those get a lot of attention, but you become a citywide department or a citywide committee focused on all things related to community development in the city. So I wouldn't propose another committee, at least I wouldn't. I'm not saying I'm right on that approach, but again, if I were to stay here, and if we were to have this conversation continue, that's kind of the framework that I would put out for consideration. Does that make sense?
So kind of like you're recommending, now there's one person, but the recommendation would be in the future have like 2.5 staff people.
Again, I would recommend if
Minimum.
again, maybe not recommend, I would just throw out for consideration if the HNI is a city priority and it wants to take the next step with HNI development of a new department with essentially 2 new staff people would be a fitting approach. And those 2 new staff people would be a director, a manager, and then an engagement specialist. And then we already have the navigators. And not to say this is like the right model, this would just be a model for the start of discussion. And if you look at other departments in our city, this is a similar model. You know, we've got our public works department is huge, our PD department is huge, but we've got other departments where you've kind of got a department head, you know, doing the big picture budget stuff. And then you've got kind of the boots on the ground, and then you've got some part-time employees. So that this is very similar to a lot of our other, you know, smaller departmental structures.
Jay?
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective on that, Wade. The issue that I have with it is presumably we already have that department. We have a community and economic development department. And the reason that's important is because the Community and Economic Development Authority under state statute has certain powers that it can use that you wouldn't have with a new department. The Community Development Authority, our statute defines the CEDA as the Community Development Authority, and the Community Development Authority has the authority to do things like issue its own revenue bonds for redevelopment or construction projects. Madison's Community Development Authority does this with low-income housing projects all the time. And that's the kind of thing that this type of committee needs to be doing. The Community Development Authority also has the ability to work within neighborhoods, to work not just on redevelopment projects, but also on creating community spaces that might involve something like the hub, for example. So, I mean, I think part of the problem right now is that there's a lot of turf that is hidden up in that building, and getting people to let go of their turf becomes a real challenge. And the bigger challenge is that they have to, if the city's going to really move forward with any of the things that a lot of us have envisioned that it needs to be doing for a long time.
Yeah, point well taken. And you're right on everything you said, in my opinion. And yeah, I guess where I'm coming from, there, to me, I just see a lack of work that I think needed to be done in the city that historically wasn't being done. I picked it up, and in terms of how it grows, how it doesn't stagnate, I think that's really, I guess, the discussion we're having is how do we continue to grow that work. Yep.
Ari?
So then, Wade, would it make sense for you to have a conversation with, is it Michael Zimmerman? Yeah, with Michael Zimmerman from CETA on continuing the project for.
Yeah, and that's, I talked earlier about, I just really need to be, I'm not going to be unloading my work onto other folks. I think, to some of Jay's points, and this isn't a knock against anybody, but I think, and Julia might have mentioned, or Jay, but just that group is more business focused, and that's kind of been their expertise traditionally, and I think they're good at it. So yeah, again, I just think there needs to be a conversation amongst city bodies and city staff at a higher level than me. But I don't make these kinds of decisions. We all have our departments we work within. So yeah, I just think in my opinion, the conversation should take place at a committee level, and probably at a higher staff level. So.
Jay, did you have another comment?
Yeah, so I think one of the things involved here is Mike Zimmerman doesn't want to do this kind of work. He doesn't want to deal with actual community development. But yet he has, as part of his job description, he is the community and economic development coordinator. So it's when I was mayor, which was 2009 through 2011, I had this discussion with him several times, and he just simply doesn't want to do it. And in the 10 years since in the 10 years that I was absent from city government, nothing has changed. And I appreciate the fact that Wade's been here, and we're doing some of this work in the planning department. But this really needs, first of all, it needs to have a higher profile than just being buried in the planning department where it doesn't get all the bells and whistles that we have grand openings for businesses almost every week, and there's ribbon cuttings and there's all kinds of things, but when we're doing important work like this in neighborhoods, it doesn't get any attention at all. And that's a problem that needs to be fixed. We need to move forward with making these things priorities and helping the citizens of the city see that these are priorities, not just talking about it, not just giving lip service to it, but actually making stuff happen. And that's why it takes 20 years to get a teen center built. That shouldn't be. It just shouldn't be. But because of the way we've been approaching these things, that's what happens. So I think we need to have a different focus on how we do these things. And I think the Community Development Authority actually needs to step up on community development. Here's a funny thing. I can't remember the guy's name, but we had a guy in Fitchburg who lived in Fitchburg he worked for WIDA, and we had a couple of appointments that came up for expiration on the Community and Economic Development Authority. So I wanted to appoint him to CETA so that he could be part of the discussion, because he could bring some housing expertise to a committee that had never had anybody involved in housing before on it. And I got our Community and Economic Development Director opposed that. And he talked to council people, and the council people would not approve that nomination. So so, you know, this is the kind of thing we're dealing with. There's political stuff going on in the background, and none of this makes any sense to me because, you know, when I hear people talking about how we need to do things to attract businesses, one of the things you do to attract businesses is you have healthy neighborhoods where people who live in them will go and patronize the local businesses. And, you know, we're not doing anything to try to make that happen. And it's very frustrating to me. I don't know if you can tell.
And maybe I'll just speak up to, you know, I want to be very clear, you know, this, again, this idea isn't accusing any existing staff of not doing their job or not doing a good job. This, and, you know, folks in the room have a lot more history with Fitchburg than I do, but I just want to be clear on, you know, my intentions with this stuff. And again, how at the end of the day, it could take a lot of different forms, but again, I just want to reiterate, you know, I think there's a gap in some of the work that needs to be done in the city. And I would hope the city continues to explore ways to fill those gaps, so.
Yeah, thank you for your analysis and bringing that gap even more to our attention. Does anyone have any additional questions, comments? No? Okay.
Sorry, I mean, I'm trying to understand how we move forward with this, you know, work. And I see that Wade made 3 proposals. Is the idea that maybe we vote for one of those, or maybe we assign someone to, you know, consider this issue further?
Yeah, Ari, if I could just chime in, you know, I think in talking with Deanna a little bit and some other staff, I have a little bit more clarity now than I had when I kind of put this together. I mean, I think from a staff perspective, we'd probably like to just, you know, keep things moving on the Navigator program. And then, you know, once that new person is on, and that we get a new contract every year, you know, and I think maybe that might be a time for the committee to really reevaluate the program and make sure it's, you know, a good fit. So, you know, I think if the committee is okay with, you know, I think we'll kind of just probably try to keep things going as is. And then again, once we get a new person on, and then once we start our discussion with the county for next year's contract, I think then is, you know, the real decision point. So.
The other thing that we can do, Ari, is when it's budget time, usually, you know, we discuss about what we want to see in the Healthy Neighborhood Committee. And, you know, if we want to increase the amount of grants, we can also say that we want to increase, you know, the city portion of funding for the navigators. So we can discuss that, you know, before budget time too. So with our proposal to council.
And Deanna, I don't know if you're still on the call, but yeah, you wanted to add anything on the Navigator piece, or?
I'm going to echo you, Wade. I think we just need to kind of keep things moving along at the best that we can right now. I really appreciate the opportunity to hear all of your perspectives. This has really helped me to kind of understand and get a little more clarity about your work. And I'll echo Jay. I think this is very, very crucial work for the city. And what I think my challenge is to make sure we get the right person and we can continue to build on Wade's good work. So I certainly have no intention to let things slide by. I think there's a lot of room to keep on growing. So we just kind of have to figure that track out a little bit. Yeah. I hope my video is better.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and then Wade, did you want to give the hub update?
Yeah, and I'll just real briefly, I don't
Yeah.
really have much new to report, but just so folks know, I think you do know, but we were asked to present one last time to the council. And we did that. Again, you know, we've been through this so many times, we didn't have a whole lot of new information to provide them with. So I just wanted to really emphasize, and again, I will, on my way out, maybe speaking a little bit more freely than I normally would, but you know, I think this is an important project to the city for a lot of reasons. And, you know, we just really try to reiterate why it is important. And I don't really think there's a debate about it. You know, it's economic development, it's equity, and it's geography, meaning, you know, there'll be a ripple effect, in my opinion, you know, if you build this thing, and we're already seeing it, you know, developers, our chamber, you know, they see the impact of this thing. You know, just quickly looking at some numbers, you know, in that neighborhood, and to say nothing about, you know, the idea of an underserved neighborhood, but just where that neighborhood is located. You know, it's Fitchburg's gateway. It's one of the most heavily trafficked regions in the corridor, or corridors in the region. We've invested $30 million in road improvements. We're getting hundreds of millions of dollars in private investment. You know, just quickly showing you guys examples of how good planning can lead to increased revenue through property taxes. You know, these were values of two representative properties 5 years ago. You know, basically 2.6 million-ish or 2.5 million-ish. Today we're talking over $20 million. And to say nothing about just the vibrancy we're starting to see, you know, in that corridor. You know, our developers, they get it. You know, and then moving on to equity, I think there's no question about that. You know, to Jay's points about underserved neighborhoods, this is the, you know, look it up in a dictionary, you'll see, you know, North Fishhatchee Road there, our senior center director, she gets it. 11% of our population, no developed park space. You know, our neighborhood partners, big brothers, big sisters, social workers, you know, they get it. And then just that idea of geography, you know, I kind of make this analogy of a ring road, you know, kind of encircling the northern part of Fitchburg, and that gives you a lot of access, a lot of traffic, a lot of economic development opportunities. So I think in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you know, you will continue to see this area of Fitchburg grow. And it's just how will it grow? And will Fitchburg find a way to most advantageously take advantage of that growth? And then, you know, there were some concerns, you know, just with costs. Well, as there should be, you know, with costs, those are important things. I did make mention that this committee recommended the option D, which, if you remember, was everything except the ice rink. So that full cover on that outdoor structure. And then I think what's really important is just painting the picture of so costs matter, but funding matters too. And we've got essentially $3.7 million in an account that is literally earmarked for spending on parks. So, you know, that was some new information we presented to the council. And then to that point, so that fund would go down, you know, with use of these hub funds or hub construction cost funds, but we'd still have a good chunk left in that account of 1.7 million. And then with new developments that are coming online, assuming they move forward, we're likely to see another $4 million go back into that fund in the next couple of years. And $700,000 of that 4 million will be directly from the neighborhood. And I would bet that this number you'll see other developments come online in the next 2 or 3 years. So this number will go up, and then this number will go up as well, that $700,000. So that's all just painting the picture that, you know, again, this is a big ticket item. There will be costs, there will be annual legacy operating costs, but the city does have funds to move forward on this. And then we just talk about facility management. You know, annually there will be costs, but again, in terms of the impact we're getting from this property, you know, these are costs similar to what we would see at other parks that have not even, maybe half the level of amenities that the hub is planned to have. So yeah, just again, I want to keep you guys up to date on the fact that we did connect with council last week. And then as Julia mentioned, they will be making a vote next Tuesday as well to, give us a final direction on the hub phase 1 found. I do want to point out, and I want to clarify this with some folks, but my understanding is there is, and maybe Julie or Jay know this better than I, but my understanding is there is currently, 2.7 approved in budget. So my understanding of next week would just be a potential amendment to bring more funds to that existing 2.7 million to cover some of those other features that we don't currently have budget for. So with that, yeah, I can certainly take any questions or comments the group might have on the hub.
Julia?
So, so most of you know what is my position with this project, and so I'm gonna save most of the stuff for next week, but there are a lot of people that say that this project is so costly that, that yes, but most of the funding, I would say most of the funding is coming from park dedication fee, okay? And second, this corridor is growing. And there are more projects in the pipeline that we cannot discuss because they are still under the pipeline, but there are more monies coming to this corridor in the form of park dedication fee. Maybe, we are waiting another year to start construction. So the more that we delay this project, the more it's gonna cost, you know what I mean? We have been fighting for this project for the last 3 years, and I this is what I say. I really, my final thought is, please, guys, if you really support this project, show up next Tuesday. Bring everyone, bring your neighbors, bring your, but we need the support. We need to tell the rest of the council that this is great for this area. This is economic development. This is equity. This is, we invested $30 million in that corridor to attract new development, to improve the area. These projects will be great for that. And, this is my final thought is, please come on Tuesday and support this project, and, because this is something, it's great for the city. It's a community park. It's great for the city.
And just just add
Yeah.
on that, this is my final soapbox thing on this, but part of the H&I, when we developed that strategic plan, part of the exercise was, can we identify unifying characteristics among these neighborhoods, meaning what led them, or what created the situations that we're now dealing with. And part of it was lack of investment and lack of public facilities. So my hope, again, I'll be leaving Fitchburg, but my hope is that we learn lessons and that we don't continue to create neighborhoods now that 40 years later will become new priority neighborhoods. So again, I just think it's planning that makes sense, whether or not this was a neighborhood in need, and it certainly is. But yeah, I think, this, as a city develops, we need to continue to invest in our neighborhoods. So yeah.
Does anyone have any other comments, questions? All right, so then with that, we can move to the report from the department.
Yeah, I don't think, I think I pretty much said everything. My last day will be next Thursday, the 12th. Again, I've enjoyed working with you all, and hopefully our paths will cross again, professionally or otherwise, at some point. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Wade. You've just really been a champion of this entire cause, and yeah, we're sad to see you go, but happy for this new opportunity. for you. Yeah. Yep.
I want to say the same way. It was an honor to me to work for you in the last, I don't know, we have been working together for many, many years, and and thank you very much for all your dedication to the city.
Yep, and thank you all as well.
Right.
I'm having problems with my little hand icons up there. I just want to say thank you to Wade too. I mean, we worked on the H&I stuff for, the past four or 5 years. I can't remember, but man, to get it up and running like it is, and to have come this far, and to have invested so much in a lot of these programs that have been doing great work in the city of Fitchburg. It couldn't have happened without you. So I really appreciate you moving that forward.
Yeah, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but thanks, Brian. I appreciate those words as well.
All right. So now we'll move to announcements. Does anyone have any?
And maybe Emily, again, I'll just, for the committee, I will, well, you have Deanna's contact. So again, I think in terms of our next meeting, Deanna will just kind of keep track of if anything's coming in for, that we need a referral. And then obviously when my replacement is on board, you guys will be notified, and, can take it from there. So.
Sounds great. All right. So then if there's nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. All right.
You all.
Thank you guys so much.